This is Module 9, Lesson 2, and we're going to look at what life was like after the Great Depression, how it impacted the American family. The Great Depression devastated the lives of millions of Americans. It caused widespread hardship, homelessness, and hunger. In cities across the country, people lost their jobs and were evicted from their homes. Many had nowhere to go and ended up living in makeshift settlements called shanty towns, small communities of shacks made from scrap materials. These places were sometimes called Hoovervilles, named after President Hoover, who many blamed for the economic crisis. People struggling to survive often dug through garbage or begged for food or money. Soup kitchens and bread lines became more common sights. Soup kitchens provided free or low-cost meals, while bread lines were long lines of people waiting for charity food. African Americans and Latinos faced even greater hardships. They had higher unemployment rates and were paid less, and often faced discrimination and racial violence during this time. Despite the difficulties, many Americans tried to avoid relying on government assistance. They often waited until they had no choice before seeking help. In rural areas, life was hard, but most farmers could still grow food or raise livestock to feed their families. However, many farmers lost their land and became tenant farmers, working on land that they did not own, often for very low pay. During the 1930s, the Great Plains experienced a severe environmental disaster called the Dust Bowl. Years of overproduction had exhausted the soil, and then drought and strong winds blew the topsoil away. Dust storms spread dirt for hundreds of miles, making it difficult to breathe. Some people even needed gas masks. The hardest hit stretch from North Dakota down to Texas. Without crops to sell, many farmers couldn't pay their mortgages or feed their families. As a result, thousands of families, often called Okies after Oklahoma, packed up and moved west to the Pacific coast like California, hoping to find work and better lives. During the Great Depression, the family remained a source of strength for most Americans. Families tried to stick together and support each other, but the constant struggle to make ends meet put a lot of pressure on them, and some families did break apart. Many families who moved west to places like California found that jobs were scarce there too. The state was struggling to support the growing number of people who had come looking for work, and much more relief was needed. For many men, the Depression was especially hard. Accustomed to working and providing for their families, they struggled to cope with unemployment. Unable to find jobs, many set out to move west in search of work. About 300,000 men, often called hobos, wandered across the country. They hitchhiked or rode freight trains, traveling wherever they could in hopes of finding jobs. At this time, there was no federal system of direct relief, meaning the government did not provide regular cash or food assistance to people in need. Women faced many challenges during the Great Depression. At home, homemakers carefully managed their budget. They canned food to preserve it, sewed clothes, and sometimes even added water to food to make it last longer. For example, some made cloth out of potato sacks in order to save money. Many women also worked outside the home to help support their families, but they were often resented by unemployed men who believed that women should not take jobs away from the men. Despite their struggles, many women were too ashamed to stand in bread lines or beg for help, so they suffered in silence. Children also suffered during this time. Poor diets and limited access to health care led to serious health problems. Because tax revenues dropped, many schools had to shorten the school year or even close. As a result, many teenagers left home to ride the rails, hopping trains in search of work, adventure, or simply to escape the hardships at home. The Great Depression had deep social and psychological effects on the Americans. Between 1928 and 1932, the suicide rate rose by more than 30%. Unemployment reached 25%, meaning 1 in 4 workers was out of a job. During this time, admissions to state mental hospitals tripled as many people struggled to cope with the harsh realities of the Depression. Because of money problems, many Americans gave up going to the doctor, dentist. They put off going to college and delayed marriage and having children. The stigma of poverty stayed with many people long after the worst of the Depression was over. For a lot of Americans, financial security became their main life goal. Despite these hardships, many people showed kindness to strangers. Families helped each other, shared resources, and developed habits of saving and thriftiness that helped them survive.